Welcome to Friends with Fertility, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of fertility, reproductive health, and all the emotional journeys that are in between. I'm your host, Elizabeth King, a fertility expert dedicated to providing you with the knowledge, support, and inspiration you need on your path to parenthood. Whether you're just starting out, exploring your options, or looking for solidarity and advice, we are here for you. Let's embark on this journey together and turn uncertainty into empowerment and make friends with fertility. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in today. Today we have Sydney Sharon. Welcome, Sydney.
Thank you.
She is one of the voices behind the California Cryobank, the #1 sperm bank in the U.S. Her personal experience as the parent of 3 California Cryobank children provides a special and elevated understanding to the content tens of thousands of people connect with every day. She brings over a decade's worth of experience in both traditional and digital PR and journalism prior to joining Cooper's surgical team and working with clients based all over the world. When she's not at her computer, she is creating the next social media campaign. She can be found spending time with her wife and her little ones, traveling, enjoying Italian glass of red wine, creating content of her family's social media accounts, and representing the visibility of the Jewish LGBTQ plus folks and families, which is awesome. You can also find her diving deep into those conversations on her own Instagram and podcast at The Sharon Mom. So thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
That is a mouthful. I feel like you're doing a lot, have done a lot, and what else is to come in the future, really, which is so cool.
It's an exciting place to be. I feel very privileged and honored to be able to play all of these roles and be able to bring my personal experience into my professional space.
100%. And that's what I was going to touch on first. I feel like when you have gone through it yourself and you are a product of something or you can speak to that in a way, it just touches the audience in such a different way from a marketing perspective, right? In the
Totally.
Professional sense of where you're at.
Yes.
Now, on the personal side, it's like you want to shout at the rooftops to everybody of like, oh my God, look what I did. You can do it too, right?
Exactly.
So to me, it's the perfect blend of both things, especially I'll always say in my own personal life and anything I went through, whether it was divorce or work or whatever it was, if somebody had been through it and I could talk to them and they knew what I was going through, I was like, okay, you got me.
Yeah.
You hear what I'm saying. You
Yeah.
see me. And I can imagine that the millions of people that go through this are also wanting to seek out that authority, so to speak, of I've been through this. It's going to be okay. And this is what it looks like. And that's what I tell all of my clients as well. Find those people who have gone through it. And then you can see, oh my gosh, those kids are loved just the same as these kids and all the things. And I think nowadays that the benefit of having that visual to say, this is what a family looks like that's built this way is incredible. So how did this all evolve?
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes our social team so unique and makes our company so unique is when you're going through the fertility process and you are in need of a sperm donor, so much of that fertility process can be so clinical and sterile. And I feel like what we're able to bring is that more human touch. Everybody on the social team has been through this process or some elements of the process. So when we are doing these campaigns with our families, these are real families talking to other real families. We don't just talk the talk, we've walked the walk. And I kind of think that's how this all kind of came to be. I think you've also seen in the last 5 or 6 years this emergence of what social media can do for donor conception and the donor conceived community. And I think being able to be at the forefront of that and be able to lead that narration of you're not alone. As you mentioned, community is everything. And especially when you enter parenthood, man, ever since I was a kid, I always heard it takes a village, but then you're ready to step into that role of parent and you're like, where is my village? And nowadays, your village really is very virtual and really has to be curated and created at your own will. And I think that's another thing that California Cryobank does exceptionally well is they have all of these different virtual pillars that you can use to have that community and to know that you're not alone. And whether it's talking to your social media team or whether it's talking, going onto one of our bulletin boards and talking to people who've used the same donor as you, or who are trying to figure out second parent adoption, or whatever may come your way. We have resources and access to provide our families.
Which is amazing because providing the knowledge and the education is always the first step, right? When you're like, it's starting to swirl around in your head. Maybe I should do this. Maybe we should look into this. That's kind of the first step, is starting to dig in and see what information is out there. So that's
Yeah.
great that you guys have that. So backing up to, what is a cryobank or a sperm bank for anyone who's listening who may not know what that is?
I can speak to California Cryobank. We are the number one sperm bank in the US. We have helped create more than 75,000 families globally. And we are a facility that provides frozen donor sperm to people and couples looking to grow their family who need sperm. So most of our families are fall into one of, I want to say, three categories. That's same-sex couples. So lesbian women who want to grow their family are obviously missing a key ingredient. We've got that for you. Another big demographic for us are women who are pursuing parenthood on their own. And then our other big target is heterosexual couples who are facing male factor infertility. So that's why you would need or want to come to a sperm bank.
And how long can sperm be frozen there?
Because it's
Or
cryogenically preserved, we say indefinitely until like it can't be. So, we have
Mhm.
we have our we have a very extensive donor catalog, and we're constantly filling our portfolio, but we have people who have been on there for decades, because sperm, once with anything that you can freeze like this, it's indefinite. So indefinite for now, for what we know.
Okay. For anyone listening, we have some pre-done questions. So I'm going to be reading through some of these questions to ask Sydney to give her, so she could give us all the information we need to know around this. So if it seems like a little bit different than our normal interview podcast, that's why and what's happening. So, um, who would be, you already talked about who, those three kind of pillars of who are good candidates for sperm donors. Now, obviously, the people that know they're going to have a sperm donor from the get-go, the jump, like the lesbian couple, better, that's a little easier to get your head around because you know that's coming, right?
Yeah.
Versus somebody who may have male factor, for example.
Yes.
What do you feel like is the first step for somebody who's just starting to get their head around, especially with males in a heterosexual couple? That could be a little touchy, right, at first, to kind of get your emotions around the fact that maybe there's an issue, and then second, we need to actually take the next step and get a donor. What do you suggest for those couples?
Um, it's one of the privileges that I have in my role at California Cryobank, is also being their influencer partnerships manager. And so we've been able to work with people who've been able to provide that actual personalized, real perspective of, I'm a straight man married to my wife, and I have male factor infertility, and we needed to use a sperm bank. So we have a few of those stories that are being shared on our channel regularly, because I think there has been this stigma around what makes a man, or and being able to kind of show up in the role that you quote unquote think you should show up
Right.
as. Um, and our one of our jobs and one of our missions is really to destigmatize that and to take away that taboo. When you look at the statistics of how many people are affected by infertility, man, woman, straight, gay, and anything and everything in between, it really is not so picky. And it affects, if it
Right.
doesn't affect you, the odds are it's going to affect someone that you know. So I think part of our job is to educate, like, look, this is affecting so many of us. You are not alone. And when you are ready to tackle that next obstacle, which is, let's find a sperm bank, let's find a sperm donor, we're here for you. And I
Right.
think one of the things that we do really well is we have so many different locations for our sperm donors to come and donate, because we want our donors, we want that pool of donors to represent all of our families. And we have families
Mhm.
from all over the world. We ship to all 50 states. We ship to more than 40 countries. We really want to have a diverse catalog that reflects our families and the families that they're looking to build.
I have worked with, I think, people in over, at this point, 21 or 23 countries. And the funny thing is, I would say most people that get sperm sent overseas are from California, which is always interesting because people don't realize that this is such a, I don't know what the right word to say is, but people are always concerned about that, right? And I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. It happens every day, all day, all over the world.
Yeah,
And
this
my
is not
babies,
new. Yeah, over here at
no,
California Cryobank, this is not new.
right.
Our name is definitely a little bit misleading because California Cryobank, but yeah, we
Mhm.
we ship to all 50 states, over 40 countries. We've been around for over 45 years. We are a leader in the donor sperm within the U.S. Um, donor sperm banking globally. We have done whatever we can to, I think, stay up to date with the changes and really be able to provide this service to families globally.
And so can people come direct to you guys, or do they need to go through their clinic or agency in order to work with you?
What comes first, the chicken or the egg? This is a great question and one that we get asked all the time.
Uh-huh.
I can tell you personally and professionally, it's yes.
It
It's
doesn't. Okay.
whatever, however your story kind of evolves and progresses. My wife and I found California Cryobank and our donor before we found our clinic. I'm very type A and I wanted everything to be in order by the time we got to my doctor.
Uh-huh.
And so by the time we found our doctor, he goes, okay, you're going to need to find a sperm bank and a donor. And I was like, oh, here's his
Dun, dun,
profile.
dun.
And they're like, oh, now in order to get the sperm shipped to your clinic, you will need all of those other things kind of in place.
Mhm.
But we have a lot of families who do at-home insemination. And so with an at-home insemination, we can ship directly to your doorstep.
Mhm.
Here in the States, we can ship. And I think there might be a few differences, I think, in New York. But for the
Yeah.
most part, we can ship direct to your door for an at-home insemination to most of the 50 states.
Right.
It's
Like New
kind of,
York's always the exception with all the
yeah,
things.
it happens.
Yeah.
We have ways to work with families. We always recommend and encourage everybody to call in our client services team. Whew. We say that they are dedicated, but I don't know what a grander word is. They are, again, personally and professionally, I have yet to have an experience where I have had to call either colleague to colleague or as a family calling in. I have just always had extraordinary experiences. They are knowledgeable. They are here to hold your hand as little or as much as you want. So it really is so custom and so unique to you and your journey. Again, I think that kind of just speaks to, we try to really make this such a human experience because there's a lot involved when you're going through fertility, regardless if you're doing an at-home insemination or you're doing IVF. You're the hormones and the medications and the tracking and the ovulating and the 2 week wait. Like it's a lot, it's a lot. And we
Yeah.
know that. And a lot of our team has I said, we don't just talk the talk, we've walked the walk. And I think we can bring that level of empathy and understanding. And I like to think that that's what makes us stand out.
Amazing. What is the vetting process for you guys choosing the sperm donors?
There are a few basic requirements, and then the process as a whole is a lot more in depth. So, you have to be of a certain age, you have to have certain health requirements. We need to have access to your expanded family, like your family history. So when you go on and you are searching for a sperm donor, you're not just getting his medical history. The medical history includes the donor, the parents, any biological siblings, all biological aunts, uncles, and grandparents. I mean, it's extensive. You
And is
have,
that regulated throughout the United States, or is that just California? Like, is it
I
state
can
to
only
state
speak,
difference?
that is
Okay.
all of our donors.
Okay.
That's for all of our donors. You need to either have a degree or have similar or like work experience. You don't have to necessarily have a degree. We take, somebody, look, there's people that don't go to college and start these crazy companies and are just as successful. So that is, I think, one of the common misconceptions we get from our recruitment team. You do not necessarily need to have a degree. What else? You got to be healthy, drug free, STD free, all of those things. We have a really kind of rigorous process. Everybody gets vetted, not just medically, but everybody meets with a psychiatrist. So there's a mental health component that goes through it. And again, not just to kind of say, Part of it is, hey, do you know what you're signing up for? But a lot of it is because as of 2018, all of our new donors are required to be ID disclosure donors. So an ID disclosure donor on California Cryobank means that when a child turns 18, if they want to get more information about who their donor is, California Cryobank can release certain identifying information. So we're no longer accepting anonymous donors. More than 75% of our catalog today are ID disclosure donors. And that's a big pill, I think, to really swallow. And so it's not just the measly, yes, I'm okay with it. It's no, now you're going to meet with people from our team. And you kind of need to really go down that rabbit hole of, look, anonymity is a thing of the past with things like 23andMe, Ancestry.com. People are getting connected every day on those platforms. So they really need to understand at this, and most of these guys are what I think between like 18 or 19 and into the 20s. Who you are in your 20s is not who you are in your 30s or 40s or 50s. And I think to really be able to conceptualize that and grasp that is huge. So we really do our best to make sure they understand what they're signing up for. And then there's all of the science stuff. That's not my expertise or forte of all the testing that they do on the samples and all the regulatory stuff. But I know we have a very rigorous process, and it's tough to become a donor with us. But we have a diverse catalog. We have I think one of the largest ones to date right now. And you can look for donors based on physical characteristics or ethnicity, religion, interests, talents, their voice, celebrity lookalikes. It's a really beautiful and cool process. And if you ask, for every family member you ask, what were your criteria, you are going to get that many different answers. And I think that that's kind of what makes up the fabric of family. And I think that's what's kind of really cool about all of it.
What was the process like for you and your wife going through it? And you have 3 kids?
We have 3. So it was important to us to have the same donor. We knew we wanted a lot of kids.
Mhm.
Apparently 3 is a lot, and I do want one more.
Yeah.
So we knew that we wanted the same sperm donor for all of our children. We also, if we had a magic wand, we knew that we wanted children. We wanted to use eggs from me and from my wife. So we wanted to have a donor that had enough vials available to purchase at the beginning. I'm a little bit more emotional, and my wife is more logical, which makes for a great marriage. And I had been searching for a few months. And when you've never done this and you get to our site and you create your account and you're kind of just staring at this page, you're like, how do you narrow people down? I've already found the love of my life. I'm already doing this with her. And all of the guys are vetted. All of the donors, these are top quality. You really can't go wrong. So how do you choose someone right for you?
Right, especially if it's, like, such a huge database,
It's a
right?
huge,
It's almost like having less options might be better if you're
it's really overwhelming. And then add the emotional component to it. After a few months, I was kind of like fed up. I was like, I narrow this down. And of course, my wife, my brilliant, logical, lovely wife, narrowed it down for us. The things that she decided to narrow it down by were blood type. She wanted the donor to have either my blood type or her blood type. There are certain like physical characteristics that her family and my family, like the men in our family, both have. Everybody has brown hair. So we did brown hair. And then all of our brothers and dads are between like 5'11" and 6'1". So we narrowed it down literally by those 3. And by those 3, it narrowed it down from hundreds to like maybe a dozen.
wow.
And then we started narrowing it down by birth year. So once we kind of went into donor profiles, she really wanted someone close in age to us because we were starting this process. And in our mind, we thought whenever our child wants to know more about the donor, that he would also be at an age that we think is obviously appropriate because we're starting our family at this age. We
Right.
happened to find a donor who was born the same year as us. And I kind of think that was it. We went through the medical histories. That was the other really important thing, but we didn't want to go through medical history of hundreds of donors. So after we
Right.
whittled it down to like a dozen, we went through medical histories and we chose the one that most aligned with our wants and needs.
Mhm. And what would you advice to somebody who's starting down this road, what would you say to them?
I'm going to give the advice that I was given by California Cryobank because I
Okay.
think it just kind of stands the test of time. It was the same advice I was actually given on my wedding too, when we were planning, which was I should make my list of must haves, must not haves, and then all the stuff in between can kind of be left in the end. My wife should do the same
Mhm.
separately. And then we should come together and figure out where do those circles align on the must haves and the must not haves and whittle it down that way. I think that made a huge difference in planning our wedding. It made a huge difference in kind of figuring out all of our big choice making is when we're
Mhm.
able to kind of go to our own corners, take a beat, figure out what's the most important to us, and come back and see what overlaps. And from there, we were able to kind of create the perfect blend of the two of us in our donor.
That's, I think, such great advice. And also, what I see a lot too is that comes down to good communication, great communication, really, right? And really be on the same page and
Yeah.
getting somebody to mitigate that if you need, because these
Yes.
are all very high tension, big decisions to make.
Yes.
And sometimes you won't always agree on those things. And you don't want to hurt feelings along the way. But at the same time, you want to know that you're being heard and what you feel matters, happens and stuff. So I think
Absolutely.
don't hesitate to get help during that time.
Yeah.
Um, and make sure fertility will test a marriage or a relationship period anyway, let alone if you're making huge other decisions like this of bringing something else into the mix.
Yeah.
So I just want to add that as well. How have you seen the donor conception industry change over the last few years?
I think it's changed a lot. I think, again, with the emergence of Ancestry and Ancestry.com and 23andMe, we have
Hmm.
access to tools that I don't think people ever thought would be here today.
Right.
And I think that there are a lot of learnings that have come out of it. I think that one of like I mentioned, since 2018, we require all of our donors to now be ID disclosure donors. That's been a huge shift for us as a sperm bank in learning about the past and in learning from the donor conceived community that anonymity really can't be that it just can't that's just not an option anymore. We really need to be able
Right.
to provide our families with resources and answers and be able to kind of have that information from the get-go. So I definitely think that this is a long road. I think we as California Cryobank are doing what we can to stay on top of the conversation and really kind of rally behind our families, our donors, and the donor conceived community. So we have three
Mhm.
really big, important groups of people that we really need to be mindful of and taking care of. Recently this year, we also released our donor reserve program. So this is a unique program that offers greater family exclusivity. So there's two options of vial types to choose from. One whose California Cryobank vials are only available to one family, and one is to even a fewer amount. It's like 6 to 8 families. So we're hearing, we're learning, we're pivoting, we're doing all the things that we can to, I think,
Mhm.
hear their concerns, learn from the past, make these strides and changes as quickly as we can. Again, while keeping in mind the donor conceived community, but also our sperm donors and also our families.
Yeah. This industry is so interesting, fertility in general, because
Yeah.
we're building it as we go and learning and pivoting as we go to see what's happening. I mean, I remember somebody, I think their son is 18 now, egg donor conception. The kid still doesn't, or is just turning 18 in December, still doesn't know. And I'm like, okay, back then 23andMe wasn't a thing. Ancestry wasn't a thing. They
Yeah.
better get on the bandwagon and like spill the beans pretty soon before it comes as a surprise to this kid.
And
Um,
I feel like social media has kind of provided this gift. Um, when social media has provided this gift, I think
I
that we
agree.
are seeing more families, same-sex families, kind of like you alluded to in the beginning, going into a marriage as a same-sex couple, male or female. If you know that you want to have a family one day, you already know the obstacles that you are going to have to overcome one day. My wife
Right.
and I, we didn't ask for a honeymoon fund or a down payment. We literally said, your presence is present enough. And if you feel like giving, please donate to our future family fund. We want to have a family.
That's awesome.
We knew that years before we were even going to start that. So we knew that we wanted, like, if we could have a nest egg for kids one day, we knew
Sure.
we would need sperm. We knew we'd need
Yeah.
fertility treatment. So I think that we have this leg up. I think also because You are seeing this change in more rights for LGBTQ folks. You're also seeing us come out and share more about our life and our stories. And we are from every rooftop and trying to showcase, like, look, our family is just like the next family next door. And we are our kids' donor conception story before they're even conceived. And I think you are starting to see again this stigma and taboo slowly stripped away from heterosexual couples dealing with male factor infertility. I think there's already been this really beautiful blossom of women who are facing infertility who need egg donors. I think we are starting to see this really beautiful emergence of people kind of sharing and documenting their journey live, like minute by
Right.
minute, day by day, ovulation test by ovulation test. So I think we're starting to see this shift in a narrative of documenting and sharing. So there are no more there is no more dirty little secret. This is something to be
Right.
celebrated. This is something to have your community rally behind you for. So I think we're really starting to see this shift. And I think social media has kind of paved a really, it has its moments of not so much
Mhm.
fun, but when it shines bright, I think it really kind of casts this beautiful light on donor can families.
Yeah, opening that conversation and the awareness and letting people know you're not it's not as different as you may think it is,
Yeah.
right? It's just now that people are finally talking about it, it's starting to normalize the
Yes.
situation. So what are the some of the biggest misconceptions about sperm donation that you've encountered?
Um, I think more of the misconceptions that we've seen, um, based on like my role, is we just want to get one or two vials and then we'll come back and get some more. And the truth of the matter is that our donors are in high demand, and
Right.
donors can retire and sell out because we do have family limits. So we really encourage our families, like, look, if you know that you want more than one kid potentially, like, you have to hold that magic wand. Time and money are a lot of people's constraints in life in general, but if you had that magic wand, we're talking about your family. If you want that same donor, if you want to kind of have some of these assurances, you need to buy, I think we recommend 3 to 4 vials per potential child that you want. But if you want 2 or 3 kids, you're looking at 12 vials. It's a lot of money. It's a really big investment. But these are, again, all part of these misconceptions of, like, I'll just do it later. Later may not be an option unless you're okay using another donor. But that's
And are
where,
all the vials priced the same, or is it like the person from MIT with the
no,
doctorate
yeah.
and yada
So
yada
it's
is
based on if you're an ID disclosure or if you're not an ID
okay,
disclosure. But 75
okay,
more than some of our donors are ID disclosure. So you're pretty much looking at a rate for most of our
okay,
donors.
okay.
However, we, again, why I love California Cryobank, and I will sing until the cows come home. I think we have a lot of programs that we offer. So we have free storage programs through our Family Today and Family Tomorrow programs. You buy a certain amount of vials. The more vials you buy, the more you save. We also have a vial buyback offer. So any unused vials can be returned. Obviously, there's certain requirements and eligibility rights that go with all of these,
Sure,
but we have all of these programs to help. We have financing, and we have all of these other services that kind of come with being a California Cryobank family. So there's all of these. The price is there because you're getting more. You're not just getting this one vial and this potential child. We are giving you a free and private and secure donor sibling registry just with California Cryobank. For LGBTQ couples who may want to both have the same donor, but you have to have 2 different accounts with us, we have a free vial transfer between partners. We offer free personalized letters to those going through second parent adoption. Our storage program, we have all of these programs that we offer to really try and help, because we know what an investment this is. We know what a commitment this is. Um, Add in all the extra hurdles that come with fertility treatment. I think one of the biggest ones is, how many vials do I need? Um, and if you can, through our Family Today or Family Tomorrow programs, if you can really utilize one of them, we highly recommend, if you want more than one and you want the same donor, to do what you can to invest in that opportunity.
right. That's such a great point because I see a lot of the single moms by choice in my world right now, and that's something that they're doing a lot of, and figuring out, they're hoping that maybe they have a partner later down the line, but what if they don't? And then, kind of
And this is where
that
our vial
insurance.
buyback offer comes into play.
Perfect. Perfect. What's been your approach with discussing sperm donation and donor conception with people in your world? I mean, obviously, this is what you've been have got yourself, so you're pretty open about it. But when it comes to your children, for example, do you guys already know what that line is going to? I'm assuming your children are young. How is that going to roll out? Is it just a normal day-to-day conversation, and or the people that might not fully be on board just because they're not educated about it? I feel like most people are making decisions these days in the world that are not the greatest decisions purely are not educated. So if they took a minute to have a conversation with you about, they'd be like, "Oh, okay, I get it now." And it's a
Yeah.
so how do you navigate those conversations both with the little ones and with those that are new to the world?
So with the little ones, the best of the best coaching that I've received, but also that I've heard from other donor conceived community is the earlier the better. I spoke with one donor recipient mom, and she goes, "Oh, I started telling my kid their donor conception story when they were new, and like every diaper change. They're not
Mhm,
understanding what I'm saying. What else are you supposed to do with a newborn?" So that was my
mhm,
practice run. And by the time they were able to understand, I was able to kind of perfect my story and
mhm.
and tell them. And I was like, well, that's genius. Um,
Yes.
uh, Look, like you said, communication is often the key to most successful relationships, and I think that that's true between
Mhm,
parent and child. So I think that open and honest communication, it's not about getting it right, it's just about doing it.
mhm,
You have those open and honest conversations. Again, I think for the sex family communities out there, again, I'm live where I live. Being a same sex couple is not different over here. My kids are not the only ones with two moms. There are other families with two moms or two dads. So I think we're also just seeing a shift in this world of there is no such thing as a normal family. What does that mean
right.
anymore? We all have our unique stories. And I think the earlier, the better. And then for people who aren't going through it, who are new to it, that are like adults going through this or have friends or family that are going through this, I think instead of again assuming or making remarks, it's asking the questions. And if you don't know what question to ask, that's the question to ask. Hey, I don't know where to start. I don't know what kind of questions to ask. How can I be a resource and ally to you on your journey? And let the other person guide you on what they need because every person's needs are different. And again, open, honest. If you're open and honest, there's no wrong way of doing it.
Right. And what's been the most surprising situation on your journey thus far?
The most surprising part of my journey was when I was pregnant with my first, and we were ready to announce to the world that we were pregnant. I also found out my dad was a sperm donor
Oh.
at that point, like 30 years ago. And the
Mhm.
way we found out was because we were all on 23andMe and we started getting connected with people. So fast
Was he a
forward,
doctor in New York by chance back
he
then?
he was at school in New York.
Okay.
So that is where he was based. So this happened. My daughter is 5.5. So this happened about 6 years ago, 6.5 years ago. And so there are six of them. And we've been to each other's weddings. They zoomed in on one of my home births. Like we've had this really beautiful experience. But I think again, on the same coin, utilizing California Cryobank's sibling registry, we've had the opportunity to connect who've used our donor and have formed really amazing, beautiful relationships with them. They're just an extension of family. I think to sum this all up, the surprising is being able to redefine over and over again who and what family is. Um, and just kind of being able to constantly kind of expand yourself and being able to love all these people. And that's been what's been really kind of beautiful and surprising on our journey.
Amen. I think no matter where you are and what you're doing, you can change the narrative of what you define as family. And it doesn't have to be just with donor conception or not. The neighbor down the street can be Uncle Joey or whatever, and
Exactly.
that's how you build your community and your village to help love on your children.
Yes.
I completely agree with that. So how can people find you, work with you, get your information, your all your good nuggets of advice, if going through it?
Yeah, so everybody should absolutely head to cryobank.com. Creating an account with us is completely free. You can also follow us at Cryobank. And then for anybody who's actually starting their journey or thinking about starting their journey after you've created that free account, you can go ahead and upgrade your subscription to a free level 2 using promo code KING, KING. That gets you a free level 2 subscription, or you can apply it to our level 3 for a discount. Cryobank, CRYOBANK, cryobank.com. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok,
All the
all
things.
the
So
things.
when you were through it, were you at California Cryobank, or how long after you went through it did you
Mm, So we became a cryobank family. We created our account in 2017. We had our daughter in 2018, and I got my job 3.5 years ago in 2021.
Okay.
So it's been a really beautiful marriage of just all the
Yeah.
things I love. I loved my journey. I love my family. I love all things social media and getting to work with people just like me and watching the amount of emails and texts I get of it worked.
Yeah.
I have like chills. Like I
I
just,
know.
it is a very magical place to work and where I get to sit and what I get to do every day.
So fun. I feel like until somebody understands what that's like to get those positive pregnancy tests or ultrasound pictures or first baby pictures or whatever, it's so
It's
amazing to be
wild.
part of that journey with
It's
all
it's
these
truly
families.
miraculous. It is
Yeah.
it's wild.
Well, they are California Cryobank is lucky to have you as their biggest cheerleader, I will
Thank you.
say. And thanks for being here. And until we meet again.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Friends with Fertility. We hope that you found the stories, insights, and tips as inspiring and informative as we did. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. Your friends with fertility are here for you. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and more fertility resources. Until next time, stay hopeful and keep believing in your journey, and know that we are sending you lots of love.